At Harrington High, Coach Willis continuously yelled at the football team for not being prepared for an important match. He was particularly harsh on star player Stan, who was about to confront him until his friend forced him to leave. Willis's anger flared up as he overturned a chair, spilling water bottles everywhere. Suddenly, an automatic sprinkler went off, and as Willis tried to stop it, someone approached from behind. That evening, the teachers left the school after a board meeting, and Principal Drake realized she had forgotten her keys. When she returned to get them, she was startled by Willis. Willis acted strangely and repeatedly asked for a pencil, preventing her from moving. Feeling pressured, Drake grabbed a pencil from the desk and handed it to him. Willis used it to stab her hand, and Drake responded by scratching his face with the key before running away, dropping the key during the struggle. She checked the doors and found them all locked, so she rushed into the science room to try to escape through the window. Unfortunately, Willis caught up to her. Drake quickly grabbed a glass and hit him over the head, pushing him away before continuing to run. She grabbed a pair of scissors and ran until she reached the main door, where she saw Mrs. Olson standing outside. Drake called for help, but Olson didn't have a key, forcing her to return to the office. When she found the key on the floor, she heard Olson scream, a warning. In a hurry, Drake ran to the door, while Willis, bleeding, got closer to her. After several attempts, she finally opened the door and rushed outside, locking it right in front of Willis. However, during that moment, Drake dropped the scissors and Olson quickly picked them up, stabbing her mercilessly. The next morning, students began arriving at school, and it was immediately clear that everyone liked to cause chaos. Couples argued in the dorms. Zeke drove like a madman, carrying illegal drugs in the trunk, while Casey was harassed and beaten as soon as she got off the bus. Mary Beth is a new student and has difficulty making friends with her classmates. Zeke rushes into the bathroom to sell ecstasy and fake IDs to other boys, while Casey is tending to a wound in a stall. In the teacher's lounge, the council members notice Willis drinking more water than usual. Olson enters and has a very awkward conversation with him. During Miss Burke's class, who is very shy, she is unexpectedly impressed by Zeke when he gives a very intelligent answer, despite usually being a poor student. In the dorms, Stan tells his girlfriend Delilah that he will quit the football team to focus on his studies. Delilah breaks up with him because she thinks cheerleaders should only date football players. Later, during lunch break, Mary Beth tries to make friends with Stokely, but is interrupted by Delilah, who constantly mocks Stokely and makes her leave. Stokely returns and notices that Olson is behaving very strangely. Meanwhile, Casey finishes lunch near the football field, and as he leaves, discovers a strange bug on the grass. Casey brings the bug into the science class and shows it to Mr. Furlong, who places it under the microscope. Mr. Furlong believes it resembles a species typically found in the kidneys of squid and octopuses, which is not logical since they are in Ohio. Some parts of the creature that Furlong doesn't recognize might be a new species. When the students accidentally spill a cup of water onto the creature, it starts to move. Furlong hurriedly places it in the fish tank, and the small creature immediately swims away, even releasing very thin bubbles. Furlong puts his hand into the tank, and the creature suddenly duplicates itself, biting his finger with sharp teeth. They decide to call the university so they can handle the situation. Back with Stan, he tells Willis that he is quitting the football team, which surprises Willis as he reacts very calmly. Later, Stan enters the bathroom and is suddenly terrified when he sees Ms. Brumel looking very ill. She says she can't breathe and that they want everyone. Stan screamed for Casey to go get help, then tried to comfort her, but a patch of her scalp got stuck in his hand. After class, Olson informed Stan and Casey that Ms. Brumel had cancer and asked them to keep this information secret. Casey looked out to the window and noticed Willis standing under the sprinklers, but Olson stopped him from taking a photo. In the parking lot, Zeke continued to sell tainted goods to other students. Burke saw him and tried to scold him for not being a model student, but she was too shy and Zeke just mocked her with his items until she walked away. Meanwhile, Casey met Delilah since both were working for the school newspaper. After discovering an excess shipment of water, they decided to go into the teacher's lounge to search for information about their teachers. At that moment, they heard Olson and Willis approaching, so they hurriedly hid in the cupboard. Willis kept drinking water, and Olson even splashed a bit of it on her face. Then they had a strange conversation about how the climate killed Brumel, and how all the teachers had now been adjusted, with only the students left to handle. Soon after, the school nurse entered the room, and Olson and Willis surrounded her. They pushed her onto the sofa, and Willis's face changed before he bit her ear. Casey and Delilah panicked, stepping back and accidentally revealing Ms. Brumel's body. Hearing the noise, Willis opened the cupboard and immediately, 2 students attacked the teachers before running away. As they went outside, the nurse grabbed Delilah's leg, but Casey pulled her away. Both found Drake and sought help, but she only smiled when seeing Willis and the others, realizing she was part of the scheme. The 2 students ran out of the school, and shortly afterward, Casey returned with the police and her parents. They searched the cupboard and only found a resuscitation doll. Therefore, Casey was scolded for playing a bad prank. Later, Drake spoke privately with a police officer, and Casey noticed the officer starting to act strangely. Drake also wanted to talk to Casey's parents, but he feared they would be changed and begged them to go home afterward. In Casey's room, his parents searched every corner to make sure he wasn't hiding drugs. They took his phone, internet, music, and porn magazines and then punished him. Later, Casey tried to sneak out through the window, but unexpectedly saw the teachers standing on the lawn in front of the house. He slipped and fell to the ground, nearly getting caught by them. However, when Casey's father stepped outside, the teachers vanished immediately. The next day, Casey was forced to go to school, even though he didn't want to, and he felt uneasy when he saw Willis talking to his father. In the teacher's lounge, all the teachers kept drinking water constantly, and even adjusted the air conditioning in the classrooms. During class, Stokely accidentally fell into Stan's lap, and they started talking, connecting with each other about their future dreams. The teacher announced there would be a special test in which students had to write down the names of all living relatives in their family. A few weeks later, Stan and Stokely noticed many students lining up for regular health checks. Stokely tried to follow, but the door was closed. Stan also saw Olsen arriving with a group of police officers. At the same time, Zeke met Mary Beth, and while they were talking, Zeke offered her drugs, but she refused. Zeke observed the students behaving calmer than usual, while there was a long line of people waiting to drink water. 2 students came to buy up the remaining drugs from Zeke, and became tense when he had nothing left to sell. They were suddenly interrupted by Burke, who was now confident and dressed provocatively. Burke insulted Zeke and embarrassed him in front of everyone in the library. Casey begged Stokely for help because she liked strange stories. After sharing what had happened, she joked about alien stories. Casey thought she might be right. Then they met Stan and Delilah, and the group went together to the science lab, where they discovered the empty fish tank. While discussing the alien theory, Zeke took Marybeth to the room next to the lab to find chemicals for the drugs. After a kiss, they accidentally overheard a conversation about aliens, and Zeke decided to play a prank, pretending to be attacked by aliens. When he and Marybeth entered the lab, they were stopped by Furlong and asked to explain. Zeke mentioned Casey's alien theory to embarrass him, but Furlong blocked the window and declared that he had sent strange creatures to the university. When Zeke tried to leave, Furlong pushed him to the ground. Casey tried to attack Furlong, but was grabbed by the throat, while Delilah was also shoved away when she tried to do the same. Zeke grabbed a paper cutter, and when he slashed Furlong's hand, the cut fingers suddenly began to crawl toward the others. Furlong lunged at Zeke, revealing small tentacles sprouting from the wounded fingers. Immediately, Zeke stabbed a pen into his eye and kicked him away. As the fingers tried to crawl onto the group, Furlong threw Zeke into the fish tank, but unexpectedly, he recoiled and fell. The group checked and found he was dead, realizing that these creatures were vulnerable to Zeke's illegal drugs. Casey noticed the parasite had left Furlong, and he kept it as evidence. The group then left the lab, and as they walked down the hallway, they noticed all the other students staring at them. The people in the class also behaved like perfect angels. They went to the parking lot and drove off in Zeke's car, trying to turn on the radio, but it was only static. There were police blocking the road outside the school, but Zeke suddenly turned the car and fled. Later, at Zeke's house, they gathered in the garage's lab and discovered he had a gun. Casey handed the parasite to Zeke, and he placed it in a mouse cage and dropped some water on it. Immediately, the parasite reacted, grabbing the mouse and infecting it through its ear. Then, Zeke dissected the mouse and discovered that this was an alien parasite, which attached to its host and controlled it. They needed moisture to survive, which explained their weakness. Zeke's dinner was a diuretic, and it had dried out the parasite inside Furlong, killing it. Stokely speculated that there must be an alien queen, connected to all the remaining parasites. If they killed the queen, they could eliminate all the parasites at once. A heated argument broke out about what to do next, and they realized that any one of them could be infected by the parasite. Zeke declared that they would have to use his drugs to prove they were clean. Casey used it first and started giggling as the drug took effect. Zeke refused to use his own drug, so Stan grabbed a gun and forced him to take it. A little later, Stan and Stockley also tried the drug and joined in the silly laughter. When it was Marybeth and Delilah's turn, the two girls challenged each other and prepared themselves. Marybeth took the drug, but suddenly Delilah dropped the pen and revealed that she had already been infected. Then Delilah shoved Stan aside while Casey held the gun, but he hesitated to shoot. Stokely snatched the gun from his hand and started shooting, while Delilah sabotaged the lab, not wanting Zeke to make more drugs to kill the other parasites. All of Stokely's shots missed, and Delilah dashed through the door to escape. The others chased after her, but a taxi was waiting and she quickly left. After Zeke collected the remaining drugs in a jar, the group drove back to the school, where the big game was taking place. The event attracted a large crowd, which meant they had to stop the alien creatures that night, or the parasites would spread. The group gathered at the gym and speculated that Drake was definitely the queen, as she was the principal and had access to all the teachers. Just then, Drake appeared in the gym, and Stan immediately charged in, using the volleyball net and Zeke's help to capture her. Soon after, Zeke hurriedly locked the door, and Stan used the gun to threaten Drake, demanding she inhale the drug. Drake refused, and Casey considered stabbing her with a pen, but when he saw her pleading desperately, he began to hesitate. Frustrated, Zeke grabbed the gun and shot Drake in the head. When they saw her bleeding normally, the group started to wonder if they had made a mistake. However, Drake got up and the parasites began to leave her body. Marybeth panicked and threw the jar of drugs at her, killing her instantly. Now, they needed to know if their plan had worked before the crowd dispersed, so Stan volunteered to go outside to check. Before leaving, Zeke handed him the gun, and Stokely kissed him. Stan went to the field and was shocked to see the football team surrounding Willis, with parasites crawling out to enjoy the rain. A little while later, Stan appeared at the gym door, and they handed him a drug pen through the crack in the door so he could prove he was still okay. Stan took it, threw the drug out, and ran off. With no more drugs, Zeke would have to use the pens in his car trunk. He and Casey left the gym, carefully sneaking through the parking lot and hiding under a bus when they saw the football team passing by. Casey decided to act as a decoy and started running, drawing the football team's attention while Zeke made his way to his car. Soon, Casey managed to hide in another bus, but was spotted by Delilah, who cornered him. The football players surrounded the bus and began smashing the windows to get in. Casey jumped just in time and managed to escape through the emergency window on the roof. Meanwhile, Zeke rummaged through his car trunk, but couldn't find the pens. At that moment, Burke approached him and kept flirting with him. He got into the car, tried to start it, but Burke suddenly lunged through the window as Zeke drove off. A series of pens fell out of the glove compartment, and Zeke tried to grab one while Burke tried to infect him, causing him to lose control of the car. Zeke quickly regained his balance and decided to crash the car into a bus, resulting in a small explosion and a fire. Luckily, Zeke was only slightly injured and escaped from the car with the pens, only to see Burke's head moving on tentacles. She was distracted by trying to reach her body, so Zeke quickly ran away. Back in the gym, Stokely began to suspect Marybeth when she spoke about pretending to be someone else. Suddenly, Marybeth punched Stokely and started transforming into a true alien form, revealing that she was the queen. At that moment, Casey returned and ran with Stokely toward the pool. The queen chased after them and jumped into the water, using her tentacles to grab Stokely, slamming her head onto the floor before pulling her into the pool. Stokely quickly woke up and swam to the surface before the queen could kill her. Casey helped her to the shore, and the two continued running. In the locker room, they hid as Marybeth chased them in her human form. Then Zeke arrived and found Stokely and Marybeth, who were accusing each other of being the queen. Remembering how cautious Marybeth had always been, Zeke noticed she was now naked and realized she was the alien. He didn't understand how she passed the test, so Marybeth explained that she had cut the bottom of the pen to spread the drug, while pretending to sniff it with her nose plugged. Zeke prepared to stab her with the pen, but Stokely stopped him because she had also been infected with the parasite. As Marybeth left and Stokely revealed her tentacles, Casey stepped out to pull her away and locked her in the storage room. Then Casey returned to Zeke, who asked him to take more drugs just to be safe. Casey sniffed the drug and proved he was fine. Then they both started running when they saw the alien queen approaching. The drug's effects slowed Casey down, and he lost track of Zeke, who was suddenly thrown across the room and knocked out. Casey heard the queen's voice, and, as he backed away, Stokely grabbed his hair, forcing him to painfully pull it out to escape. Before long, Marybeth transformed back into her human form, and while walking around, she explained that her home planet was dying, which was why she came to Earth. Meanwhile, Casey sneaked close to Zeke's body and grabbed the pins, then stepped out of hiding, ready to attack. Marybeth transformed again, and her tentacles started destroying the lockers. Casey ran into the gym and activated the retractable rows of seats, hiding behind them to lure the queen in. After a brief chase, he managed to leap just before the rows of seats closed completely, trapping the massive creature. Casey then stabbed her with the pen, and at the same time, the queen infected him with the parasite. Fortunately, the drug quickly killed the queen, and the parasites inside Casey died as well. Afterward, Casey checked on Stokely and confirmed she was fine. Suddenly, Zeke startled them, but he was okay too. A month later, everyone at the school had returned to normal. Zeke had replaced Stan on the football team, and Bert came to watch him practice. Stan was dating Stokely, while Delilah was dating Casey, who had revealed his story and was now considered a national hero. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching.